Everyone. This is primarily for the coaches, but also we might release it for the entire team. You can follow along even if I'm not speaking to you directly. This definitely is about your training. But yeah, for the coaches, this is something that I told you I was going to get. We've got a new curriculum for February, but the way we're going to train needs to adjust and evolve a little bit, and that's as if not more important as the particular technique. So I mentioned this to you all as a group in over text in our group chat. I want to talk a little bit more about it and what I mean by it. We're going to move away from what I feel can largely be described that I've set up as like a seminar style of classes where show a move, students practice it for a while, and then you do positional and full sparring with whatever time is left. We're going to change every class to more of a what I would call a practice model, not a seminar model, right? So let's talk about what each one of those needs to include. There is a sheet that I've sent you with each component, so not just the moves we're doing each month, but the list of what I want done for warm-ups and how to train the moves as well with partners. So what is a practice model? What does a practice entail? Well, we need a challenging warm-up every single class, and those warm-ups need to emphasize fundamental technical movement knowledge, and it needs to improve conditioning. So there's a list of the things I want you to do. Those aren't like possible things to do. I want you to run students through all of those things every class, every day, no matter what day you're teaching, no matter what you're wearing, gi or no gi, jiu-jitsu. Make sure they're doing them. Do it for time. I think this should be like 10 to 15 minutes of work. There's some additional things in there that we haven't had listed in the past, like guard sit-ups. Those are challenging. Those are hard. They're hard to do for a lot of reasons. A lot of times people are gonna try them and fail, and that's okay. We learn break falls, right? Break falls in the warm-ups. If you're falling, you can't do the guard sit-up yet. You're gonna work towards it. It's very similar. Like if you can't do a pull-up yet, you start just by like holding and like hanging for as long as you can. It works your grip. Kind of similar to like maybe you can't. You grab your opponent, your partner, you lock your legs, and you can't let go of them manually and recline yet. Your ankle kind of grip, your ankle lock will break. So you can just practice holding them for a bit, and then maybe a slight recline for a little bit, or for a little longer the next time. We can take these in stages, just like a pull-up. Then you can go from hanging to like get yourself up there and do your flex arm hang and wait there for a while. So we can take these in stages. That's, whatever people, especially like new people or people new to hard warm-ups can't do in a warm-up is fine. We're keeping our same ethic and culture of, people do what they can do. Ultimately, people have to be self-motivated and they have to choose to push themselves. We're not, shaming people or screaming at people to do it. But when we do hard warm-ups and they're programmed into every single class, every single day, week after week, month after month, that just shows students that this is something they should aspire to, and they will naturally, and they'll get to the point they're gonna try to work naturally, I think, to get to the point where they can do the entire warm-up. If they can do part of it at first and can't do the rest, and they have to, sit, that's fine. Like, it's okay. Like, we're not gonna shame anyone. These should be challenging enough where some people are gonna have a lot of difficulty completing them off the bat, and that's completely fine. But by doing them every day without even us barking at them, it'll show them like, oh, this is just something that I should aspire to do. So why is this important? Think hard warm-ups that emphasize movements that we use in jiu-jitsu, shrimps, guard sit-ups, shadow arm locks, all sorts of things that are on the list. This builds skill, right? It builds fundamental skill. Maybe we're not doing guard arm locks in the curriculum, but if every day you're doing 25, 50, 100 shadow guard arm locks, you're gonna always be working on and you're doing that with visualization, you're always gonna be working on and the skill you need to do that type of stuff. It also builds muscle memory. If you're using your imagination, you're practicing your shadow arm locks from your guard, and you imagine like, oh, I do an offensive, let's say like a triangle, offensive triangle. I push and pull, and that's when I shoot my legs up. You can train yourself to have really good muscle memory, to do the right things at the right moment. It improves agility, right? Like we're all coming in different places, and a really cool thing about jiu-jitsu class or any really good martial arts class is that even if someone comes and they're not a quote-unquote athlete or weren't when they were kids, if by doing the things we teach them on the mat, they improve their agility, right? Maybe they would have never been able to do a bear crawl in the past or a crab walk. Those are exercises and they're tough, and we'll talk about that stuff in a second, but they also just help us learn to use our bodies and become more supple and more balanced and more agile, and that's really just fun. It's good for health, and it's good for safety. And also these warm-ups also improve our physical conditioning. Most importantly, the type of stuff what we're doing, muscle endurance, that's huge. It just will. You're doing this every day, you're going to get in better shape. Like before you do any of the partner technique and drilling, before you do any positional sparring, before you do any rolling, if we have these good warm-ups, people are going to be improving their conditioning in the first 10 to 15 minutes of every class, and that's going to be really great. It's subsequently all those things together are going to help students build pride in themselves and their work and confidence. I use myself as an example. I started when I was 15. My dad got me in the gym. I was the youngest. I was the smallest, maybe not the shortest, but I was the lightest person, and I was definitely the worst for a very, very, very long time. Going with a bunch of grown men, it was a long time before I got like a tap on the mats and sparring, like a long time. But I went because I was having fun. My dad took me, and people were nice to me, and I also I felt stronger. I got in better shape, and I was like, through exertion and going through the process of like, oh my gosh, I can't do this warm-up, to a few months later, like, hey, I do the warm-ups, right? Now I'm not the person that has to sit out part of this. I really felt confident in myself. I said, you know what, I don't know how good I am yet at this as a potential fighter, but I think I'm getting tough. And that's a good feeling. I always say this: you will get tough before you get good, and getting tough is a lot more important than being good when it comes to self-defense. Being tough, and physically having muscle endurance, being able to breathe in difficult positions, being able to move in difficult positions because you're in tough spots all the time. That's really some of the most useful things about jiu-jitsu, even more than the cool techniques. I think that's the stuff that saves our hides in self-defense situations. So I think this will really help students. It'll challenge them. You always run the risk of losing students who don't want to come to jiu-jitsu to work hard. Okay, God bless them. But everyone who stays, everyone who's there to have a fun time and to challenge themselves and get in better shape and learn more things and move their body better and meet people and be in community, they'll stay, and they'll feel really, really proud of themselves. It's also, we'll talk about this later, it's also a really nice thing because when you have a beginner, even if it's a first day person, at the end of class, they're not going to just do rolls. Like, you as an instructor might say, hey, come with me, and you flow with them. Wonderful. I like that. Do that. If you're going to have them do free roll, have it be with you or one of your colleagues just taking your class, or a super advanced student who you trust, to just flow with them. But how do we get brand new students who have no real skill yet to like break a sweat and feel like I did something hard today and feel really proud of that? Well, warm-ups and positional sparring are really important ways to do that. So we'll talk more about positional sparring later, but they go hand in hand in the regard that even though they're really, really difficult, they're actually things that make us really more accessible for beginners. If you have like an advanced class where everyone knows everything, you don't need to spend time shrimping, you don't need to spend time learning how to forward roll or backward roll or any of that stuff, because we all know that stuff. And you know what, we don't even drill that hard, because I did my conditioning this morning at the gym. I'm really tough, I'm really advanced, I'm really disciplined on my own. I just come, I'm just chilling a little bit, and then we have a bunch of hard rounds. Like, that's not actually accessible to brand new people that don't have the lexicon to spar hard. We need to give them these hard things that make advanced people advance as well. So that warm up is going to be really, really important for those reasons. The stand up stuff every day. Obviously, we do stand up wrestling. I'd like us, as you'll see, hopefully in the curriculum for February, we're emphasizing positions, right? So here we're talking about head position this month. We're probably going to stick with that head position and single leg. We want you to explain kind of broadly and simply, but not, it doesn't have to be crazy technical detail like head position. And we'll take a couple positions. This month we've got like a Russian tie, like where are my hands, where is my body in relation to my opponent, and what part of my head is in what part of their head, right? So we have like an underhook from the side, we have a Russian tie from the side, and we're also doing some single leg stuff, right? So just explain the position so that they can get to those positions and know where to put their hands, their bodies, and their heads, and their feet, and all that stuff. But then the goal of the way we're going to have this now, teach this now, is just to give them space to explore those positions. So we're doing this for time as well. You're working from and out of head position. So I get a Russian tie on you. I'm going to start there. It's your turn to get out of that, right? And you're going to go for 2 minutes. Coach will call time. It's my turn to go for 2 minutes. We're going to do that first with no resistance. Just work the position so they remember this stuff. That's good if you're a beginner. It's good if you're advanced. Then you might have them do the underhook. Then you might say another 2 minutes with the Russian tie. Then you might say, hey, let's do that single leg escape. Grab the single. Where do we go for the single? Review that. No resistance, all those positions. Each person gets their time. Then you say, all right, now let's give some resistance. Depending on what you're seeing out there, tell them, give 10%, give 25%, give 50%, right? See what you think is appropriate, and they're going to do it with some light resistance. That's a partial positional sparring. It's going to get people's mind racing. It's going to get them practicing the stuff. It's going to give them a little bit of stress that'll help reinforce what they're learning, and it'll help their conditioning a tiny bit as well. Okay, so show the position, give them time to flow with one another with no resistance, and then give them time to partially resist with one another from those main positions, okay? Just those positions, right? Explain a couple principles of how to get away. It doesn't have to be elaborate either. I show a couple ways. I show like 1, maybe 2 ways by virtue of just demonstrating the video of how to get out of the Russian tie. But we want them to feel these things and learn for themselves a little bit. If they have time in these positions, they'll start finding the answers on their own a little bit as well, okay? Do this stuff for time. Have the clock going, have your watch or phone, or utilize the wall clock. Stuff on the ground. You want to show it and explain the move, and then you want to have them each partner. I want you to have them all partner up like usual, and each do it for time. So time them, say this is how long you're going to do it, and it gets the habit of like, I've got to make the most out of my time. If they're struggling, they're brand new, or they're not new, but they're struggling in a position, they can explore and use the time a little bit different. They might call you over if they're really struggling. But having it be for time encourages them that like once they remember the steps enough to at least struggle with it, they're going to try to get as many repetitions as they can do relatively cleanly, okay? So I have it for time. People will learn on their own that, oh man, time was up and I was chit-chatting a little bit too much and I got like 3 reps done and like, okay, I guess I don't know this, right? So have it be for time, call it out, have them switch after the set period of time. After you show each technique and then have them practice with no resistance for time, then immediately do some positional sparring. Say, all right, get in that position. Even if you don't show an escape or show an offense from half guard, we're doing half guard passing and half guard into back take. Have them struggle there for time and explain to them the parameters. You're going to get in the same position you were just working in, but now you're not going to let each other do it. Top person, you're going to try to pass or take the back. Bottom person, try not to let them do it. You can lock up your legs. You can, if you know a sweep, you can try the sweep. Tell them to breathe, and breathing, really the key thing to remember about breathing is to exhale audibly, blow it out. If they exhale, they'll naturally inhale. That'll help them with their conditioning and help them relax. And give them time and say, like, if you pass, if you take the back, and time's not called yet, get back in position and go again on your own. So after every technique that you demonstrate, you're having them practice no resistance, and then you're having them do positional sparring, every single technique. So plan that out in your timing, all right? And then you go to the next move, okay? This will immediately reinforce the technical knowledge that they're practicing like in a non-resistant vacuum by helping them to make it applied knowledge by doing it with resistance, and to make sure that they get reps in with resistance in every position that we're dealing with before open roll, before regular, I should say like live rolls, live full rolls, because you might be working half guard all day, all week, all month, but when you roll just in free roll, you slap and bump, and you're never in that position. It's just not the way it goes, right? So the positional sparring is really important because it gives everyone resistant practice in the position we want them to really focus on for that week or that month, regardless of how their rolls go, their open rolls, okay? So if we have competitions coming up like we do now, know who is competing in every class. We have a competition board. You should be promoting the competitions. You should be letting people know, how to sign up, where to sign up, the details of it. Don't assume they know how to do it. If you don't know something that I can help with, let me know. And then ask every time who's signed up, or did you sign up? Let us know so we can put you on the board. That helps you. It helps them. It's nice. It looks cool. It's on the board. Gives them some recognition, but it helps you every day. Oh, who did I see? So-and-so and so-and-so. Oh, they're in class. All right. I know they're in competing, right? I know they're doing White Belt Warriors 5, March 2nd in Iowa City at Arroyo Grappling. So what does that tell me? Well, they don't have points. If there's no submission, they go to overtime. What's the overtime round? The overtime round is starting from the back, right? Seatbelt, hooks in, go. Fastest escape or fastest submission, right? And so if you see people are competing, know the rules they're competing in, and give them work to prepare for that in particular. So right now with White Belt Warriors, for example, someone is in class that is doing that, that in addition to everything else we're talking about here, they need overtime roll rounds. In addition to everything else, they need to have someone on their back and work out. They need to take someone's back and try to get the submission, right? So that's important too. Competitions coming up, we need to know that and cater a bit to those who are competing. That helps those who aren't as well. They can be a part of that process of competing, even if they're not competing, while helping in camp. Explain tapping to anyone who is you've never had in class before every single time. Like, what is tapping, verbally, physically? Why do we do it? When do we do it? Explain that. Don't assume that people know it. I made that mistake before, right? You've been doing it for 25 years. You forget there's things people don't know. Every class needs to go over the curriculum for that month every time. I'd love for you to each show your spin on things because you have different games. I'd love for you to add on to what we're doing. If you can budget time for it. So we have back takes. If you want to show a rear naked choke on top of that, great. That you like, I love it. It doesn't have, you don't have to wait for me to teach you how to do it, or one of the things we have up there that I've already shown for how to finish it could be your own thing. That's fine. But as a base minimum, I want every class to go over the curriculum. If you're teaching a gi class and you've got a gi grip that you want to show that's not really in this month's curriculum, fine, show that. I love it. But we want consistency between every class and over time. People want to get better, and this helps them get better faster. As I think all of you know, my thinking is always for when people say they want to get better faster, I first recommend that they train every day. And if they're training every day, how many of those days are they doing multiple times a day, right? Of course, I want that. I just think that's what serious people do. But not everyone's going to do that. Not everyone's going to train every day, and that's okay. They can still improve. They can still improve enough to compete every once in a while and make that a worthwhile experience. Having hard warm-ups and consistent curriculum teaching every class will help ensure that no matter what class the student comes into each week, they will get tougher physically and mentally, and they'll reinforce and practice whatever they did in the last class, okay? So even if we do it this way, even people that train twice a week can get tough because they have hard training twice a week, and what they did in one class is building on what they did in the other class. It's not two separate things, right? So I hope that makes sense. That's really, really, really important. I'm gonna be better at making sure you all have the curriculum every month, and so then you do your part and teach that. I'll get better at getting you next month's stuff earlier as well, so you have time to review it and ask me, if you have questions and stuff like that. This will also help you each troubleshoot amongst yourselves, right? You won't have like a mystery as to like, why doesn't this student know this thing? I haven't seen them in class, but they're taking other people's classes. They look in Zen Planner. I see that. Like, you can, this shouldn't happen, and you wouldn't have a mystery. You'll know, like, oh, was I teaching it? I guess the others aren't teaching it. And then you can also troubleshoot with one another. Hey, I know so-and-so, they go to your class too. I've been seeing this. Are you seeing that in them? And you can have fun brainstorming on how to tweak things and better serve the students. That's the nice thing about having really small classes. We can do that. If you're each teaching the same curriculum, if you're all teaching the same curriculum, you can better communicate with one another. The things that help us develop endurance will help us develop technical muscle memory as well. They work hand in hand, and that's really, really nice. If someone comes in just twice a week, I want them to become tougher. I want them to practice the same things twice that week. Whatever they do with their time other than that is on them. They can study these things outside of class. They can go for jogs. They can, after class, jump on the bike, do pull-ups, dips, and like, we have that there for them, right? But we're going to do our part in making sure that they get tougher, even if they come once or twice a week, because we have a tough class for them. Same welcoming class, same class with small class sizes. We can explain things a little bit more for those who are newer, but it's going to be tough. And I'm not worried, and I don't want you to be worried about students getting bored, because it's the same thing. I don't care if someone is bored. They can go watch a Michael Bay action film for titillation. To get better, they're gonna have to do the same well-explained things over and over and over and over every day, and that's the only way they will get better. I want people to feel welcome. I want people to feel safe. I want them to be safe, and I want them to get better, and that's it. Not any other form of coddling is necessary. They can do other things. They can go other places. I don't care if you're bored teaching the same thing. Find a way to tweak it. Do it a lot, and by practicing it, you'll develop a new take or new insight on that, which you can then share, which is completely different or completely additional to whatever way I was explaining it, right? If you're like, oh, I've taught the same thing 2 classes in a row, 3 weeks in a row, the 4th week I'm gonna do something different. Don't teach the same thing. How often are your students hitting that in rolling? How often are they hitting it in competition? If they're doing that, how often are they hitting it in MMA fights? I mean, like, there's always ways to improve. Being really, really great at jiu-jitsu or any fight style is not about knowing more moves than the other person. It's about being better at the basics. That's why the finishes and the stoppages come from the same positions and the same submissions over and over and over in fights. Boxers are not, the best boxers don't have like a video game super corkscrew flying punch. They're better at the jab. They're better at setting up their cross. They're better at preventing the fight from going in a certain area and fulling it into the area that they want. So, this is not much to ask for, like an hour and a half of time to have consistency and focus. And I think that's a large part of what we can offer to people. And if folks don't want that, I'm not really concerned about it. I don't think we have those type of students. This is all really prompted by seeing even relatively casual and new students challenge themselves and say, I want to compete, and doing it. And I'm so proud of them. And I want to make sure we're serving them as well as we can. And a lot of those people, my typical advice of train 7 days a week, and 4 or 5 of those days, if you're young enough and healthy enough, should be multiple times a day. A lot of those people, that's not going to really apply to, right? So, but there's still a lot of things that we can do and they can do to get better within that. One, they can adjust their goals. Maybe they're not going to become a fighter. Maybe they're not going to compete every month. But they can still improve, and they can still optimize their improvement by taking certain practices short of training every day. So this type of stuff, by challenging themselves physically every day, that's also going to reinforce some basics in them every day. They'll either teach it for the first time, or if they're advanced, we'll reinforce it. And it's also going to give them consistency to help optimize their retention of learning. If it's advanced students, I'm not worried about advanced students getting bored either. Any quote unquote advanced students, what needs to be advanced about them is how they're training more than others. They train more often. They train more dedicated with more intensity. They do more stuff outside of it. That shows me that they're advanced, not their time in, not what they've done in the past in competition. What are they doing now, right? If an advanced student is like, if they ever deign to think, oh, this technique is basic, I know this one. Ask them, or ask yourself if you're ever tempted to think this way. How many times have I hit this in competition? How many times have I hit this in competition this year? Oh, then maybe I can work on it, right? If you want to do extra, you all have keys. You can do extra sessions. Coach Karina has done extra sessions. Others have done this in the past too. We have open-ended cross-training opportunities to go train at PSE or Iowa City, to learn from others, right? I'm coming up soon to teach some stuff. So there's always opportunities, but advanced, again, isn't just like a fixed status. It's like, it's a verb. I'm advanced because I am kinder to others. I am more helpful to others. I train more than the others. I compete more often. I am doing things that I didn't used to do in competition because I'm drilling this stuff on my own. So yeah, I mean, I think the basics is going to be good for everyone who wants to make use of it. And for those who are training every day, if you're advanced and you're training every day, we have adult programming every day. You're taking your colleagues' classes. You're not just teaching yours, you're taking theirs so you can learn from them and you can get more reps in. If that's you, then you open up the gym. You say, hey, who among the coaches here want to get some extra work after my class or on Saturday or Sunday or what have you? Hey, do you want to go over here to Rami's? Or hey, Elias, do you have any other, our gyms? I do this all the time. Where I set up people to come to visit us, we go visit them. I'm fine with that. Make the most of what you have if you're a so-called advanced person, and that starts with 7 days a week of training. And then we add more in, and you can experiment. You can try some other stuff, and I will be glad to help you do that. I am not going to be glad to help you learn more, like to take my broken self and spend hours, with you showing you more stuff if all you do is train once or twice a week and you're not competing. It's like, whatever. If you're training a lot and you want to compete, I'll give you a lot. I'll give you a lot of time. I do this with the white belts right now. I have individual texts out to 3 different people, 2 of them white belts, 1 of them blue belt, who have competitions and fights coming up. I just tailored their conditioning program for them, right? I'm happy to do all that type of stuff. If you're advanced because you're putting in more work, and you need more, right? Because you're maxing out already, and I'm happy to do that. So let me know if you have any questions about that. I'm really excited about this. I think if you're healthy enough to do the warm up with people. A lot of us have injuries, so like maybe you can't do the hard warm up. That's okay, right? Have someone who understands it, like a position, explain it. Take some time in advance. Maybe if you need to, like, oh, who's coming? Shoot them a message. Hey, my knee is jacked up. I can't do shrimping. I need you to be the person to demonstrate shrimping at the beginning of class. I can't do a break fall because my wrists are jacked up. I need you to demonstrate the break falls. I talk through it. Don't feel bad if you can't do the hard warm up because you're hurt. It's totally okay. You can talk and point and be a leader. And when you're healthy enough, do it, right? Huffing and puffing with them, leading by example when you're able is a really good way to improve your ethos of credibility. But it's okay if you're too hurt to do that stuff as well. All right. So proud of you guys. Thank you for your hard work. Let me know if you have questions, and I'll talk to you soon.